Hi guys. Today we are going to learn how to read closely to develop hidden details about our characters. Have you ever had the experience of not wanting someone else to criticize a friend or a family member you like? They can make me crazy, but when someone criticizes one of them, I get upset and I start defending them. When we care about a person or our favorite sports team or a specific player or even our favorite song or our favorite TV show, anything, if someone talks poorly about it, then it can make us defensive. So we can't help it. We find it hard to listen to criticism, which brings me to how we can feel these similar emotions about our characters. Today, I want to teach you that it's easy to sympathize with protagonists or main characters, and we want to defend them. You have to realize that complex characters are like real people. They have parts to them that are less likable. All of us have positive qualities, but then we also have some qualities about us that are maybe less likable. When I think about the stories we've been reading, I have to think about looking at all aspects of the main characters. So let's look at their behaviors a bit closer. Are there any parts that push me to see other sides of the main characters, like less likable sides? When we think highly of a character, we tend to develop a loyalty to him or her, and we see mainly just the good, not always the less likable sides. We always want to defend the protagonist or the main character if we develop a love for them. Just like we develop a love for our friends and family, so we defend them as well. So in order to do this work in our notebook and to show two different sides of a character, I've got an illustration here of Will from Popularity. And in the beginning, we talked about all these different attributes of Will the other day and how he and the two Allens were kind of isolated on one side of the playground, and they were always looking on to the other side to where the cool kids were. And his main objective was to be cool, to be popular, to be with the in crowd instead of over across the playground, just being a wannabe with the other two Allens. He said a lot of things in the beginning. We looked at some textual evidence the other day, and we determined that he was a little bit sarcastic. We know he was jealous. The part where he says that he can't wait for the day to where he no longer has to look for four-leaf clovers and he doesn't have to hang out with the two Allens ever again. We looked at this as this was pretty ruthless because the two Allens had been there for him. They had been his only friends, basically. But he was being very disloyal to him. It's like he didn't care about them at all. All he cared about was himself. He was ready to go and become popular, and he didn't care what happened to them. So I would say those traits, being sarcastic, being jealous, being ruthless, being disloyal, all of those are less likable traits. But toward the end, we saw him as being pretty clever because he figured out a way to work himself in. He was very determined to become popular. And he was very witty. He was funny. So these were characteristics that would be likable traits. And he was very observant because he observed the popular crowd enough to figure out what he needed to do to weasel his way in and become popular himself. So if you look at the drawing that I have, you can see Will, and to the left, you can see that he was observant, he was clever, funny, he was determined. All these are likable things. But at the same time, he's sarcastic, he's jealous, he's ruthless, he's disloyal. Later on in our studies, we're going to have this little unit that we do to where we look inside ourselves and we see that there's a good side of us and a bad side of us. And that's pretty much what we're focusing on today with our characters. I want you to be able to see the good and the bad in our characters. So if you've read any Harry Potter books, you probably see Harry as a very likable character. He's really kind. He's really compassionate. But I'm going to show you a little clip in just a second that's going to introduce you to a different side of him. I want you to see if you can pick up on where he's merciless. He's merciless, and he's violent, and he's angry. And these would be less likable traits. I'm going to show you this scene. from the Half-Blood Prince. I want you, do you see any unexpected sides to Harry? Is what I want you to look at this with the lens of, are there any parts that push you to see other sides of Harry, his less likable sides? I want you to think about, what did you think about Harry and how he responds to Malfoy when Malfoy's alone? So let's watch this just for a second. Let me make this big so that you can see it. Hopefully my Chromebook will load. I'll fast forward it just a little bit if it'll let me. Okay, let's watch.
Harry, it's Katie. Katie Bell.
Katie, how are you?
I know you're going to ask, Harry, but I don't know who cursed me. I've been trying to remember, honestly, but I just can't.
I know what you did, Malfoy. You hexed her, didn't you?
So in this scene, we see a whole different side of Harry. So he is protecting someone that he loves or cares about, and he's ruthless. It's seen that Malfoy is crying when Harry walks in, and Harry finds him in this vulnerable moment, and he takes advantage of it. Malfoy seemed pale. He was unhappy. He seemed almost sick, yet Harry did not even hesitate to go attack him. Also, some of you knew that Harry was using not just a harmless spell, but a deadly curse. That seems a little bit extreme. So this video reminds me that even good heroic characters like Harry can have less likable moments and sides. It's important to push ourselves to consider all the scenes that characters are in and all sides of them, even the less likable sides. So here's what you're going to do today. Today, as you go off to read, I want you to add this lens to your reading work. I want you to push yourself to see the sides of your characters that may not be the most admirable. You're going to draw your character to illustrate likable and less likable traits in your composition book. And then below your picture, you can write something that you've realized about your character's two sides, likable and less likable traits. Now, let me show you what that's going to look like. Let's take a look at your page here. So this is your actual notebook page, and it says draw your character to illustrate likable and less likable traits in your composition notebook. Then you're going to upload the picture in this box right here. You're going to write the title of the book you're reading, the name of your character. Then you're going to upload the picture here. And here is where I want you to write the likable traits, list them here, and the less likable traits. And let's try to think of at least 3 or 4 likable and less likable traits. And then you're going to submit this assignment through Canvas. Let's see you do the work.